Well, Troy Renck is on the line now from the Denver Post, Broncos beat writer. Troy, you talk about all kind of stuff, man. You talk about 8 defensive penalties. You talk about 2 more Peyton Manning picks. You talk about a 17-0 hole. And then you talk about being tied 24-24 with a chance to win in the end. This was a crazy game.
Yeah, it was. They got down 17-0, and you figured it just wasn't going to be their day. Omar Bolden with a huge return on special teams gives them life. And when they had the ball with Manning, the drive he threw the interception, it set up for the perfect story. He leads the team down the field. They win. He gets the record. He gets the yardage record, the all-time victories record. But it was reminiscent of Cleveland. He threw a pick this time that the Broncos couldn't overcome. The defense couldn't bail him out this time. The defense, frankly, needed the offense to bail them out. Right. And they couldn't provide a laugh. They could not provide a life raft for him. And it got ugly. I mean, the disappointing part is watching. The defense plays nasty. They have an edge. But obviously, Talib crossed the line. I mean, that's unacceptable. He's got to know better. Now it's a very strong possibility he could be suspended for a game. Obviously, he's going to get fined.
Right.
But you don't want to compromise your team in that situation and prevented him from getting the ball back. It was unlikely he would have been able to drive the field, but still, it was a silly penalty, ill-timed. It's unacceptable on his part.
Yeah, I mean, we'll find out maybe later today or in the next couple of days at least whether the fine and the suspension comes down for Aqib. But yeah, Troy, I mean, 3 penalties on the defense on that last Colts drive, 2 on Talib, then 1 on a field goal. That's self-destructive. That's killing yourself, but it's also something that you can control. It's not like you don't have the talent and Andrew Luck drove down and held onto the ball on your defense. This is like you did it to yourself. Yeah. So do you feel like, okay, they got this kind of game out of the way. It was a perfect storm. Peyton goes to Indy. The record's on the line. Andrew Luck rises up. The Colts beat him there. And now we can kind of move on with the season. Got the first loss. Now let's look ahead.
That's part of it. They were due a clunker. I mean, they could have easily had 2 to 3 losses at this point. They had been living dangerously, flirting with losses at Kansas City, at Cleveland. So the idea they would lose one is not surprising. Again, defensively, I don't think that the Colts decoded their defense, as some are suggesting. Andrew Luck, they hit him 11 times, but they only had 1 sack.
Right.
He had a game not unlike he did in the playoff game. He broke tackles. He broke containment. The defense did not play well in coverage. I guess of all the surprising things is the coverage and the number of blown assignments in the secondary. Chris Harris didn't look the same after he got hit and went through the concussion protocol. You just had a defense that grew more increasingly frustrated. And I think that's what you saw them act out toward the end of the game. They felt like the calls were going against them. They were blowing some assignments that they're not used to messing up, and it all kind of boiled into that one. The last few drives, it was kind of ugly for the defense. But I don't think the Colts decoded the Broncos by any stretch. It was a bad game, and sometimes, in adversity, you find out how good you are. They had won a few they probably shouldn't. They lost one yesterday. I'm sure they felt like they should have won.
That is exactly true. We feel the exact same way, and that leads me to my next question for you, Troy. We'll get to talk to these guys a little bit later today, but how much do you feel like this is something that really is going to light a fire underneath them and going to propel them the rest of the way? Because we got another half of the season to play.
Like T.J. Ward said, we weren't going to go undefeated, right? Now we're going to come back with fire against the Chiefs.
Well, that's the attitude you want from a coaching standpoint, to see your players angry but motivated. And they have to be careful not to play the victim and make excuses that the refs are targeting them. They have to let all that go and just play.
Yeah.
Because when you start playing that game, it's easy to find excuses, and I don't think they will. The way that game, the way it all came together and unfolded at the end, it was just frustration that they just all played out at once. But I believe they'll respond, and I say it for 2 reasons. One, their defense is still really good. They're going to miss DeMarcus Ware, and if Talib gets suspended, certainly that will hurt. But their defense is still really good, and they have a good locker room, and that's based on my own observation. Guys like each other. They take ownership. They're not going to be losing fingers today. They will make this personal, and I do believe they will respond and have a good game against the Chiefs based on how these guys act and the ownership they've taken throughout the season.
All right, Troy. Thanks so much for joining us, man. We'll see you out at Dove Valley later. Gary Kubiak will meet the media around 1. Players in the locker room at 2:30, and we'll find out more about how they feel on this non-victory Monday. Troy, thanks a lot. We'll see you next week.